Buckeye Nation, welcome to the Buckeye Boyz, where we talk about college football with real fans. I'm Devan. That's Melo. You can't see him right now, but he is there. And tonight we have a very, very special guest for you, Steve Bellisari. How you doing tonight, Steve?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you coming. Like we were talking about before, this is one of the main things we love about YouTube and having a platform like this is meeting new people, getting dive into people's brains and talk about football. And one of the first things I would like to talk to you about, because you played, you're a Buckeye, man. You are a quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And that's a big deal to me. I know it's a big deal to a lot of people that watch our show. We love hearing from people that used to play. And just kind of get their perspective of how it was and everything. So, dude, if you want to just start off and let some people know in the chat, let people watching, dude. Well, I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm going to do this and we'll go backwards. What was it like to be an Ohio State Buckeye?
Back to the beginning. So my dad grew up in Columbus, played for Woody Hayes in 59 as a walk-on. And he moved to South Florida, right? And then my brother had the chance to go back to Columbus and play. So I've been raised a Buckeye since I was in diapers, and it was special. It was a dream of mine to go play college football, And at first I thought I wanted to go to Notre Dame. Had a chance to meet, some of the coaching staff there, and then watching my brother play, and then having that opportunity to come up here was, once in a lifetime, right? It was special. And I think, you see now today, you get a lot more insight into the teams and what's happening because you got YouTube and Twitter and all these different things. But it's a special place, man. I'm very proud of my time there and really enjoyed it. I wish we would have won some more football games like the teams have done lately. But all in all, I think we had a pretty good team there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I like that you brought that up. If you don't mind, can you walk us through like your childhood a little bit and like what made you fall in love with football as far as playing it? What made you fall in love with it, man?
Yeah. So I was a baseball player, really. I played football, baseball, basketball, but I thought I wanted to be a pitcher. I was a lefty and, pretty decent at the time. But in 8th grade, I broke my elbow playing football. And that was the same year my brother went to Ohio State. So all I could do was watch, right? And I had to sit there and learn the game. And that was also the same time he went to Ohio State. And I got to see how amazing, it was to be at a place like Ohio State. And that's right there when the light kind of clicked for me. Like, and I want to do something. Like, I remember having that conversation with my dad. My dad was a high school football coach for 30 plus years. And he said, look, if you want to do that, you know what you have to do to get there, but it's going to be hard, right? And we had that conversation as an 8th grader. And, from there on out, it kind of was just head down, put in the work. And I was fortunate enough to, have good coaching and get to a place where I had a chance to play at Ohio State. Having an older brother helps, right?
Yeah,
they got to see what he was capable of. And even if I was just a little bit as good as he was, I think they knew they were getting something good. So it worked out well for me having a brother that was older like that.
yeah, yeah. That's pretty awesome. Melo, you still with us?
Yeah, I had a question. So, Captain, how did you end up playing defensive back? Did you do that in high school?
Yeah, so I played both ways in high school. We were at comparatively, a middle-sized school. We weren't the top tier. We weren't really small. I think my senior year, we had like 35 guys on our varsity team. So we had a lot of guys that played both ways. My freshman year, actually, I played linebacker, oddly enough. And then that moved into safety and played receiver and tight end. I got a good education in football early, right? Because I played a lot of different positions. And then coming out of high school, I was recruited for both. Some places liked me as a quarterback, some liked me as a safety. I just wanted the opportunity to go out and compete. And that's why I ended up at Ohio State. I had a chance to start for 3 years, whether that was going to be a safety or a quarterback. And, ended up starting for 3 years, which was, I'm very fortunate to do that. But my freshman year, I did both, right? So against Toledo, I think it was, I was the first player, I think, since, I think it was Chick Harley. I played special teams, offense, and defense in a game. So I was very fortunate to be able to do that. And the head coaches that trusted me enough to let me do a little bit of both. No Travis Hunter or anything like that, but got in and do a little bit of both sides of the ball.
I mean, you put up some good numbers too. 3 for 5 your freshman year, 60% completion rate, 4.8 yards an attempt. 100.3 rating. So I mean, I would say that's
Hey,
pretty good playing all those positions. But my next question to you is, playing so many different positions at an early age and through high school, do you feel like that enhanced your awareness and skill in terms of being a quarterback, or do you think that might have hindered you a little bit?
No, I definitely think it helps, right? If you're able to put yourself in the mind of that defender or the other person and understand how they're trying to attack you, it's only going to benefit you. And it's no different than playing other sports, right? I think you learn a lot just competing, right? I find it weird today and take travel ball and things like that. Kids specialize in one sport really, really early, and that doesn't make sense to me. You know, you got to go fail and learn how to fail or compete in a sport that you're not great at. If you're always winning, it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but I think you also learn how you do and challenge and things like that. So I thought that was a huge advantage for me, being able to play quarterback and understand what the defense was thinking or how they wanted to try to use their leverage against me allowed me to do the same thing to them.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, the chat's getting some questions for you, but I just want to let the chat know real fast. We're going to run through a few questions real first, for a little bit here first, and then absolutely in a minute, I'll give the chat an opportunity to put some questions in there. Don't know if we can get to all of you or not, but put them in there. I'll most definitely ask them. But Steve, I wanted to get your thoughts on something real fast and some information from you. So you see how college football is today with recruiting,
Mhm.
with NIL and the transfer portal and all that craziness. It's like, so I'm big into recruiting. I follow recruiting like an absolute psychopath. I'm into it. I love digging into it, finding out why people are making these decisions. What did people come from? The opportunities they have, all those kind of things. So knowing how crazy it is, I would like to hear your perspective on how your recruitment went and like share some details with us on whatever you feel like sharing with us in terms of your recruitment, just so we can get a vibe of how different it actually is today.
Really different. So let's put that out there, right? The game has
Yeah.
changed completely. But I stated earlier, my brother being older, I got to sit there as a seventh grader and eighth grader, watch Steve Spurrier, Bobby Bowden, Gary Moeller, John Cooper, all these coaches. They would come to our house, right? And so they would do in-home visits, and that still happens today. But it's a little bit different, right? They would send letters in the mail, which I don't know if teams are still doing that or not. They're probably communicating via Twitter and Instant Messenger and things like that. But um, I had a lot of coaches come and sit and have dinner at our table with my mom and dad and myself. And, some would joke, hey, if you keep playing well, like your brother will come back and see you. And, a lot of that was true. So I was fortunate to, being in South Florida, one, which is really good high school football, two, having an older brother. And then our coaching staff at our high school, every year we'd get a 15 passenger van and we would go around to all these different camps. So we packed up a 15 passenger van, drive to Ohio. We'd camp at Ohio State. We'd stop at West Virginia. We'd do Florida State, Miami. And so we hit all these places, and that's where all the other coaches would get exposure to different players. So that was really important in the recruiting process for us. Like you had to go be active and go to all these different camps. So we did that pretty regularly. And then, I was fortunate, like I said, I had close to over 80 scholarship offers because of
Dang.
being in South Florida, having an older brother, and getting that much exposure to all those coaches. So it was great, and I had a chance. My final five were Ohio State, Florida State, Notre Dame, Northwestern, and West Virginia. The high school coach, my high school head coach, was from West Virginia, and they recruited a couple guys for my team that actually played there. And at the time they had a great program in Morgantown. If you ever get a chance to go, it's pretty nice. Great college town. Northwestern, I thought I was a smart guy, wanted to go there. And then, at the time, Ohio State, Florida State, Notre Dame, they speak for themselves, right? Great schools, great football schools. So Florida State, not so much now, but I think they'll figure it out.
That
Yeah.
reminds me so much of SFE because they do the same thing. They take which is South Florida Express. So they're based out of Miami and they go to different colleges with all their players and let them camp as well. So I think that's pretty interesting. That might be something unique to Florida. I wonder if South Florida just started that trend.
Good question. I don't know. I just know that was, we knew if we were going to get exposure, you had to go out to the camps where you would get every competition, right? If you stay in your little bubble and you're the best fish in that pond, you don't know until you really get out there and go compete against other people. But that was a huge advantage. It also helped my high school team, right? We had guys that had never left South Florida, going out and competing against other guys that were the best in their state or their city. So anytime you can go out and compete and learn, it's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
generic question though. What is it about Florida, the state of Florida? Why is the talent so tremendous and the athletes are pretty much superior comparative?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question, man. I don't know if it's the weather and you can be outside more. You don't have to deal with the winter. It doesn't make sense to me, but all I know is if you're going to be an athlete, you got to be able to run and jump and do all that down in South Florida. You're not going to play.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy how you look around and you got like all these states down south that have so much talent. But dude, you see him coming from everywhere, man. It just depends on, the kid and how he was raised and his love and his passion for football, different things like that. But I kind of want to dive into your time at Ohio State now. So you always hear about the culture at Ohio State, and obviously different coaches now, different things and all that stuff. But to kind of get a perspective to see if that culture is maybe kind of the same. I don't know if you know how the culture is now there. I mean, as a fan sitting back watching now, I don't know how involved you are with the team and know what the culture is like, but what was the culture like then? Like, give us a description of what it felt like to be in the locker room, what it felt like to be at practice, what did it feel like to walk around the stadium, or the school of Ohio State, being the quarterback, being a captain, being a defensive and offensive player, just being who you were, being a Buckeye. What was that like, man?
Like I said earlier, it was special, but I always get asked this question about culture, like what's an ideal culture? And, you know, I've always said it's friendship with accountability, right? And I don't know how to explain, like, if you want to have no accountability, like go join a country club, pay your dues, do whatever you want. But that wasn't what we had at Ohio State, right? And, you take it for what it's worth. And I would say the culture is just as good, if not the same now. Um, there is that friendship with accountability, right? We would have the same winter workouts, the film sessions, the lifting, and our coaches made us accountable for what we did well and what we didn't do well, right? And that was the true with Jim Tressel, true with Coach Cooper. It's been true with every head coach that we've had, Carl Bruce, Woody Hayes. I think that's something that was started back with Woody, right? And you talk about that chalkboard they found with all those principles and the ideals that he was trying to impress on these young men. Um, that's continued through our culture forever. And you see it in our fan base. And so, I look at this year in particular, right? And I saw a little thing in the chat, iron sharpens iron. That's the one thing that's really special about this Ohio State team. Look at the way the running backs are running this year when we brought in, talented number one. Now our other guys running even harder, right? Coach Day took his ego, put it aside, and brought in a good friend and another head coach to help him call plays, right? That is the culture and what we have there, right? So I liken it to that friendship with accountability.
Yeah, I like that. That's a beautiful thing to have there. We've always heard about it. You can kind of see it how they play on the field. I love you brought that up. You bring in these transfer portal players, and it just seems like every one of them that get interviewed, or every one of them that you see on the field. I mean, Seth McLaughlin came from Alabama, and he just raves. And he said in one of his interviews that it's been a long time since he's enjoyed football this much. And I think that speaks to the culture of the team and what Ohio State is and the players that are around them. So that's just an awesome thing. Somebody in the chat earlier, and I'm curious about this too. I'm hoping you can maybe go into detail about maybe two things that you went through as a player in Ohio State, more specifically, your two most memorable or favorite plays in games for your entire Ohio State career. Maybe an awesome play that you made. Hopefully it's not a bad one, but that happens in football. Everybody's got a bad play. But what are some memorable things from actually playing?
Yeah, UCLA in 1999. That was a night game. And the anytime you get to play under the lights in the shoe, it's special, right? And that was, I didn't start the game, but I came in and, had some pretty good plays. Had a chance to get a good crackback block on a reverse, which I think nowadays they'd probably call a penalty. But that was a pretty memorable moment. And then, playing at Penn State probably wasn't in '99 wasn't my favorite moment, but talk about just the loudest place I've ever been in my life. They had Courtney Brown, LeVar Arrington, Brandon Short. They were ranked number 1 in the country at the time, and it was an experience that if you haven't been in it, it's hard to describe. And then going back there my senior year, first play on offense, do a 7-yard touchdown, and that was a pretty special play. So there's a lot. I mean, it's hard to pin them down. I actually, being a big fan of my brother, I go back to plays I remember the most are when my brother played. Watching him play at Ohio State and coming out and being a freshman, watching him run down on kickoff, things like that. But there's a lot of good memories in that stadium.
Yeah, heck yeah.
So I kind of want to stay on that front. Instead of like on the field, I actually wanted to know like what's one of your fondest memory off the field and maybe with your teammates just hanging around Columbus and stuff. For future recruits, if they're watching, they might have similar experiences or they might already have concepts on what Columbus is like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good in Columbus. But I remember, my memorable moments were the winter workouts, the two-a-days, I gotta miss the games, right? I don't. I miss being in the locker room with the boys, bragging on each other, making fun of things, getting ready for, our game plan and things like that. I miss the workouts, the 6 a.m. workouts in the winter, getting up early. No one likes to be there, but people bringing the energy and having fun. Like, those are the things that you miss the most. And you can't fake that, right? That's not you either buy into that or not. And we had a group of guys that were all bought into that, right? No one bitched or complained about being there. We knew that was part of the job. And so those are the things that I probably miss the most. But as far as I hate to say this, but it was 20 plus years since I've been in Columbus. And I look at Columbus now compared to when I was at school, it's way better now.
Yeah.
Right. Just the amenities and the restaurants, the shops, everything. So a lot of good things have changed.
Yeah, it's pretty popping off there now. That's for sure. So chat, if you guys got any questions for Steve about his time playing there, anything you want to know. This is a good one. Donald and Karen Roshbook want to know who was your favorite wide receiver to throw to? That might be a tough question for you. Maybe not.
Yeah, that is a tough one because, there's a couple of them that got hurt, that didn't play. Vanessa Probit was one of the best receivers we had a hip injury. But I mean, it's hard to. Michael Jenkins was an unbelievable receiver. He made it easy. He was big. But my 2 main guys were Kenyon and Reggie, and those were the guys that I worked with the most. Actually, got a chance to coach against Kenyon or Reggie this year. He's coaching at Westerville North with Stanley Jackson, so always good running into them. But between Kenyon and Reggie, it'd be a coin flip.
Okay, nice. Bob has got a question for you. He wants to know how you motivated yourself to counter the pressure of being the guy on the spot at Ohio State.
Yeah, I didn't look at it as pressure. I didn't. I looked at it as a privilege, right? I was very fortunate to be there. And I think having an older brother who played there, who was a captain, my dad played here. I was very proud and happy to be here. I didn't look at it as pressure. Because if you did, you'd lose your mind in it, right? I think you can get caught up in all that. But, I mean, it was a privilege, right? I was very fortunate to be able to go out and compete and do something I loved with guys that had the same kind of, mentality behind me. So I never really looked at it as pressure. Now, I will say this. There's a ton of pressure playing quarterback at Ohio State. It's worse now, I think, than it ever was, just because, I could leave and I'd never hear the comments or anything people would say. But now you go on Twitter, Instagram, people can find you. It's different. And so you got to learn to just block that out and turn off the noise. At the end of the day, you have to focus on what matters. And the people that are around you are the ones that can give you that criticism, right? So if you focus on the right things, it really isn't pressure. It's really just focusing on the job, the task, and what you need to do to move forward.
Yeah, for sure. I like that, man. Definitely a lot of pressure. That gets talked about a lot. I love that you said that pressure, you looked at it as a privilege. Dude, that's a Ryan Day thing. He says that, or I'm sure it's not a Ryan Day thing, you know what I mean? But he says it all the time. Pressure is a privilege, man. And that's why some people go to Ohio State, dude, because they want that. They want that pressure and to push themselves. Some people can handle it. Some people can't, man.
Yeah, that's CJ Stroud. Just to let's set that for the record. That's who Ryan Day is quoting when he says pressure is a privilege.
Oh, okay. Nice. Yep. Sean's got an interesting. Yeah. Sean's got an interesting question. He said, "Did you ever think Craig Krenzel would lead OSU to a national championship?"
Yeah. I mean, listen, when I was playing, I thought I was going to lead us to a national championship. That was the goal. And, when I left, it's not like we had a ton of seniors that depleted the cupboards and they were rebuilding. Oh, and by the way, they have the best college football running back that I've seen in a long time in Maurice Carrett. And so, every week they started winning and continuing to win, and people were shocked. And I was like, no, this is what they do. And the way Krenzel coached, that team was perfect for it. So wasn't surprised, impressed that they beat Miami, right? Growing up in Florida, knowing what Miami has always been. If you look at that roster on paper compared to ours, we were never supposed to win that game. But like I said, with the team that we had, the way Coach Krenzel coached, and the way Krenzel led that team, no, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, that was some good stuff. He's a tough player, man. There's a lot of people out there comparing Will Howard to Krenzel. I've heard that a couple times for sure. Mika Hanna, she's a regular on the show. She's been on the show a couple times, actually. She is a savant on every single high school player in the state of Ohio. She got information on them, but seriously. She wants to know, who was the toughest player you ever went against? I mean, you can pick somebody from another team. Maybe you remember a certain defensive end or defensive tackle that was just heck on the field, or maybe in practices. Was there one of our players you had to go against that you knew was a hard one to go against?
Yeah, I'll give you two. One, an opposing player, and that was LeVar. If you go Google his highlights, he almost killed me. 99, I think we lost 24-10, I think, or 24-14, something like that. We had roughly like 64 offensive plays. I was on my back for 43 of them.
Golly.
I mean, we just got beat up, right? They out-physical us, and you name it. Playing with Charles Bentley was by far the toughest, baddest dude I've ever played with. Unfortunately, his career got cut short because of injury, but I don't know. You guys could pull up a picture of Charles Bentley right now, and you'd be like, "Yep." I mean, he's still a dude. I'm sure he could probably get underneath the bench press and bench 315 probably 25 times still. Like, the dude's an animal, and he was the best center in college football, in my opinion, at that time. So.
Yeah, I know a lot about him because I'm really hoping he becomes the offensive line coach at Ohio State. But that's just me. So I know you watched the Buckeyes this year. I know kind of, and I'm getting to somebody in the chat asked a question. I'll pull it up here in a minute. But we lose to Oregon, a 1-point game. I got a different perspective on a lot of people. I don't look at it too negatively, honestly. It was on the road against the number one team in the nation. We had essentially two turnovers, didn't play our best game. We only lost by 1. So I think we're just fine. But now I'm sure you hear the rumblings about the defense, people questioning Jim Knowles and whatnot. Daryl wants to know if you had any similar experiences to like kind of what the defense is going through now, where you hear the rumblings. I mean, I know that there wasn't like X and Twitter and Facebook. You already said that around, but do you remember like a game that happened and afterwards maybe people on the team were questioning us? Are we doing things the right way, or do we need to switch some stuff up?
Fortunately, if you go back to my 3 years as a starter, we had a different offensive coordinator every single year.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was always that sense of, are we doing the right thing? But that goes back to this, hey, with their pressure, that's why you come to an Ohio State, right? You are going to be scrutinized and pushed to make sure you are being the best version of yourself, go win football game. And so, I've had a lot of people talk about the Jim Knowles thing. be surprised. Like that's Jim Knowles calls defense. He's been doing that since he was at Oklahoma State, right? And so we're asking him to change and do something completely different. Like that's not who he is. Now I'll say in the Oregon game, they did a handful of things that broke tendency, right? They threw vertical to the field. But at the end of the day, we know Jim Knowles likes to play man defense. And he does a lot of different exotic schemes and tries to get pressure different ways. And when that doesn't work, and you have to cover for a long time, I don't care who you are, you're going to have problems. And so, the reality is, I don't think they're going to change their scheme completely because we have the players that we have, but we have to find ways to be getting pressure and doing things like that. At the end of the day, we can't expect our guys to cover for that long, period. And I mean, that any coach would agree with that, right? So, like, that's not like a huge revelation and, changing things. At the end of the day, like, you give someone that much time and let people run vertical, you're going to have problems. And we saw that. Good news. We only lost by a point, right? We had to overcome a lot of different things. And hey, I tip my hat to Oregon. They knew a rule better than us. It's Bush League that I think they did it, but whatever. They won the game fair and square. Now, do I think we were better if we win that game or lose that game? Between you and I think we're going to be better because we lost it. We have to go on the road against a loud, hostile environment like Penn State, right? They're a good football team. They're going to do trick plays. Here's what we learned in that game. We always practice for situations, right? There was a situation that we weren't ready for, and we got exposed at the end of the game. We did. That won't happen the rest of the year with the staff. That's a good thing. So, I mean, I can confidently tell you, I feel we were better for what happened out in Oregon by losing than we did by winning.
I love that. I love that answer. Yeah, you broke that down. That's kind of how I feel about it. It was a 1-point loss, dude. And look at the things where we broke down. And Ryan Day even mentioned that literally the next practice they had, they went down and they practiced those exact things towards the end of the game. The exact scenario. He said they practiced it. So that's a good point, man. Would rather lose this game in the regular season than go to the first round of playoffs, have the same scenario happen, and find out we're not prepared for it then. So good point. So chat real fast. I'm only going to pick 2 more questions out of the chat and ask them. We got to get rolling on. I want to pick his brain a little bit about the team that we got this year. I'm excited because I love hearing from people that are way smarter than me about football. It helps me learn some things. So couple Ken Taco, we already asked him about his memory at Ohio State earlier. Harris Washington, one of our wrenches here all the time, wants to know what your greatest memory was overall about being a Buckeye. Greatest memory.
That's really hard to pin it down to one.
There's
a lot of special things, but I think my most vivid one, just being a freshman on the road at night. We played West Virginia. And it's the little things you remember. And like the DMX CD had just come out. I remember rocking that in my headphones, like old school headphones with the CD player, not an iPod. So I'm dating myself there. But, going on the road into a hostile environment and just experiencing college football personally for the first time. And, I was able to run down and kick off and be a part of a play. And, I kind of had that realization like, man, I can do this. And so that was a really special moment. And, along the way, I was fortunate enough. I had an aunt and uncle that would be at every one of my away games. So I was always able to look up in the stands and see a family member. And that to me is, it's a pretty special moment, being able to play at that level and still have family at every single game. Those are the things that stick in my mind the most.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Next, it's a pretty interesting question. I'm sure you're aware we got Air Nolan on our team, a lefty quarterback. I kind of lost the comment. I believe it was Daryl maybe that asked, is it harder for the offense to adjust or a defense, quite frankly, to a lefty quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, there's a nuance to it for sure. And it gets eliminated with repetition, right? So, as a receiver, if you've never caught from a lefty, the ball spins in a completely different direction, right? So that's weird. I don't get the catch from a lefty too often. There's a kid on my son's high school team who's a lefty, and he throws to me, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And so it's just, you got to rep it and be able to see it. And so it's a little bit different. I do think, defensively rolling out and different things like that, schematically, you'll attack a lefty a certain way, but at the end of the day, football's football, right? And so you learn, you practice, you rep those. But probably the biggest difference, and this is silly, but based on the spin of the ball, right? When I throw the ball deep, my ball's going to fade to the left, whereas you throw it on the right, it fades to the right. Receivers got to know that, right? And I have to know that as I'm throwing the ball on different routes and things like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make too much of a difference.
I gotcha. Cool. That's learn something new every day. Melo, you got any more questions before we move on to the?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting about the spin.
I did too.
I never thought about that. So hopefully we'll see a new lefty soon. So I just want to
got a lot of options.
Yeah, I just want to dive in. What's your thoughts on the team this year so far at this point of the season?
Happy, right? I mean, here's the thing that I always say: if you're going to have a national championship football team, and go back at the last 15 national championships, there's a handful of things you have to do really well. One, you have to establish the run, right? You got to be able to run the ball. Two, you have to be efficient on third down. And three, you got to play stellar defense, right? Win the turnover battle, all those things. We've been doing that, right? And if you go back to the Oregon game, why did we lose it? We lost it on third down.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember the stat correctly, they were like 48% conversion rate or 52, and we were in the 30s. If you don't convert third downs and you're not efficient, you will lose football games, right? So I can go to a stat line and look at the team stats of any game, and I'm going to look at three things: third down efficiency, yards per carry, and turnovers. Generally speaking, whoever wins those will win the football game. And so that's what Alabama was built on. That's what Michigan did last year. Like, if you do those things, you got a shot at winning the national championship, period. And I've seen us do that in just about every game, right? We've been dominant running the ball. If I remember correctly, I think we're north of 5 yards per carry as a team. That's a big deal. And that's a tribute to Chip Kelly, right? And so as you get later into the season, especially this year now with an expanded playoff, you're going to have to be able to run the ball, but you're going to have to play really good defense. And I think we can do that, right? And so now it comes down to schematically staying healthy and things like that. So I think we're in a really good spot.
So my other question is, how do you feel about our defensive rotations in general, especially the D line? So like Tyleik Williams and Ty Hamilton played 50 snaps against Oregon, and both of them, Tyleik is 330 pounds and Ty Hamilton is 295 pounds. Do you think playing 50 snaps at D tackle is a little much, especially with a team that's doing Temple?
Yeah, man. On paper, yeah, right. If you look at that, but not understanding and being in the game, the game planning and what they were trying to accomplish, there's obviously a reason for it. If anything, I'd like to see us getting more players into it. And this is not a knock on Denzel Burke, but like every once in a while, you're having a bad day, right? If I went out and threw 3 picks, they should sit me down and bring someone else in and say, "Hey, man, you're not getting it done today." And they have a deep enough roster, so let's rotate those guys. So I don't know if there was an injury that contributed to that and why those guys played more, but at the end of the day, I think we do have enough players, and we have to fight that urge of when we get into a big pressure situation of leaning on some guys too much. We got to keep fresh legs and things like that in there all the time, and we have the roster at Ohio State to do that. But without being in, some of the game planning and things like that, it's an interesting stat and curious as to why we did it. Right? It doesn't make sense to me. But
so, like, whose job is that? You being a player, whose job is it that comes up with the rotation and who's going to play? Is it the D-line coach or the DC?
Yeah, the position coach will own that, right? And then based off of the scheme, knowing the personnel and packages, that will change things too, right? If they had a certain personnel that they were trying to stop the run and making sure they were heavy because we needed to cover the A and B gaps, there may be a really good reason why those guys play that many snaps, right? So it's going to be personnel dependent and then also scheme dependent.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things for me. I'm pretty big on that, pretty upset about the rotation because it wasn't just defensive tackles. It was every position on our defense. They didn't rotate. Like the next 2 linebackers played the entire game. The third linebacker, Arvell Reese, he played 4 snaps, so it was the entire defense. And that's probably my biggest question mark as to why a defense would do that. You know, you don't know, right? You don't know,
without
man.
being at a week of practice, I mean, those guys could have not been able to pick up the scheme and had a bunch of mental mistakes. I mean, could have been disciplinary, but who knows, right? There's a ton of different things that go into it.
Yeah.
And it could be that the coaches trusted those guys more, and that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I got a question for you, man. Obviously, Kyle McCord dipped out of here, went to Syracuse. Ryan Day had to go into the portal, pick a quarterback. He chose Will Howard. A lot of people were not happy with that choice. A lot of people were. I was stoked about it. I love the fact that he was a gamer. Yeah, I mean, every quarterback has their strengths and has their weaknesses. But give us a breakdown. I couldn't think of a better person to ask this to beside a previous Buckeye quarterback. Give us your thoughts on Will Howard, man. There's a lot of people. He can't throw a deep ball. He can't throw a deep ball. He makes bad decisions sometimes. The sack in the Oregon game, the couple of interceptions. Break it down for us, man. Will Howard, what's your thoughts?
Listen, the way Chip Kelly runs an offense, right, and the RPOs and that power running game and what he set up, out of all the guys in the portal, I think Will Howard fit that the best, and that's why they targeted him and ended up winning that recruiting battle with him.
Right.
Listen, we could take every quarterback and break down things they don't do. Right? They did it with Tom Brady, and they figure out how to overcome them. Will Howard's played, 5, 6 games here now? Like
6.
He's getting better week over week. There's not a lot of things that I would say he did bad in that Oregon game, right? The one knock I have on our offense in that Oregon game is we didn't win on third down late in the game. Early in the game, we did well. And it's a combination of scheme, what we want to do, who we're trying to take advantage of. And unfortunately, late in that game, we didn't. But I mean, he played a clean game. Yeah, because we want him to throw better deep balls? Always. They want every quarterback to throw a better deep ball. Unfortunately, when you throw a deep ball, it's a 50-50 opportunity unless the guy's running wide open, right? So, yeah, I want every quarterback to throw a better deep ball. Right? I'm coaching my nephew right now in high school, and I give him shit about his deep ball all the time. Because when you take those shots, we want to take advantage of them. But I can't sit here and say, man, there's a lot that Will Howard needs to work on or change in his game. Like, of course, of every game, you're going to see people make mistakes, have bad reads. One thing that I've been most impressed with Will Howard is how he's handled the pressure here, and B, he doesn't let those bad plays affect him multiple series, right? He has a bad play, we're on to the next thing. And that is going to be the difference, I think, later in the year as we continue to get better week over week. If he can continue to do that, that's a championship caliber guy, right? I mean,
Amen.
That's what you need. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to throw interceptions. You're going to miss a read. It's what do you do after that that becomes important. And I've seen a lot of good things out of Will on that.
Yeah, that's my number one thing that I like about Will Howard this year is he'll go out, make a mistake, come right back in, and just continue like it didn't even happen. I've seen too many times quarterbacks, they get in that rhythm of just screwing up and they can't get it out of their heads, and it just continues, snowball effect, man. I have not seen that from Will Howard, and that might be one of the things that I love the most about the dude. Well,
and what I love the most about Will is his leadership. So the difference to me between Will and KMC is that Will has a swagger. He has an energy. He makes you want to go to battle with him. When you watch Kyle McCord play last year, it was like he had that lifeless 1,000-yard death stare all the time, especially if he made a mistake. So you're supposed to be the leader of the team. I'm feeding off your energy. If you have confidence, I'm going to have confidence. So I think that's the biggest difference between Kyle McCord and Will Howard for me. But Kyle McCord definitely had arm talent. We can't take that away from him. He had arm talent. It's just the leadership style I wasn't fond of.
Yeah, I would say there was something there between McCord and Day. And this is me speculating. I don't have any insider information, but there wasn't a mutual trust there, right? And I don't know what it was, but I didn't feel that. I didn't see it. I can see Will Howard making a mistake, and he knows that Day and Chip Kelly got his back. And that matters as a quarterback. And so maybe that's something both of them learned, because if I watch McCord play this year, it looks like he has that, right?
Right.
He's got that energy and stuff you're talking about, Melo, that we didn't see last year. Because I agree with you, he didn't have that, and Will Howard does, and that's going to win more games than not.
Right.
I can't let you off the show without asking you about probably the most talked about player on Ohio State right now, and that is the absolute phenom wide receiver. Melo calls him Optimus Prime. That's what we call him here in the Buckeye Boys. Optimus Prime, aka Jeremiah Smith. Give us your thoughts on him.
Speechless. I can't believe that kid's a freshman. I walked by him in one of the practices in the spring, and I looked at him and I was like, I don't even know if I could have played football with that guy. Right? And I thought I was pretty athletic. I mean, that dude is special. He's hard to put into words. I think that penalty they called on him was complete BS, right? Like, that wasn't the right call. But unfortunately, when you're bigger and faster and stronger than people, you get called differently, right? And that's just something he's going to have to learn to play with. But man, talk about another example of our team being selfless and letting a freshman like that come in and shine because he's earned it, right? That kid's great. And you haven't heard complaints about anything from any of our own players. And oh, by the way, now it's opening opportunities for everyone. So that's the one thing I think that this team is different, right? There's no complaining. There's no, I'm not getting the ball. There's a lot of positive forward thinking mentality with this team. And that's only going to continue to make this team successful. So, and he's a great example of that. And that, I'm sure he wants to make every single play and catch every ball, but like, he's the most positive, upbeat guy that I've seen in every interview. And just from a talent wise, I can't put into words, man. I've not seen anything like that. It's unreal.
So I got two quick questions, and then it's whatever. What do you want to see in this upcoming Nebraska game from the team? And also, we're going to need your score prediction as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I want to see consistency, right? I think offensively they did a really good job in that last game, and there's a lot to build on. We got to overcome some injuries on the offensive line, so we're probably going to have some new faces in there. I want to see them be consistent. But back to that third down efficiency thing, right? I know that sounds like a weird stat, but go look at the team winning third downs. They win football games. So I want us to be really efficient with the football, right, and have good drives. I think if we can go out and do that, sky's the limit with this team. Prediction, 49-7.
Dang, so, Steve, on this show, every Wednesday at 8:15, we do score predictions in chat. It's time for you. Put your score predictions in the chat. Whoever gets the closest gets a free Buckeye Boys t-shirt. We send it to them. But my score prediction was 49-6. Another one of our buddies was 49-13, and now you're 49-7. So 3 out of the 5 we got so far have picked 49. Look at Karras in the chat trying to steal your score prediction. Karras, he already picked 49-7. He's just copying you. Hey, I got to know real fast. Somebody that obviously played the game a lot. Beginning of the year, before the season, I was pretty worried about the offensive line, right, because of last year. And can you give us your thoughts on how the offensive line for Ohio State's performing this year?
I mean, go back to the last game. Thought they played great. They overcame some injuries. We're running the ball at a really high clip. I don't think Kyle McCord's been sacked that often, right? I mean, that's not been an issue. Yeah, teams are going to get pressure, but I look at, bringing in the center, and I think he's done a really good job of solidifying that group. And I think the communication's been better, but it's also a tribute to Chip Kelly and the type of running offense that he likes to employ. He is a downhill power spread running football, right? That's his MO, and he's been great at that. And you start to see that type of mentality, your O-line starts to identify with it. And that's what we're starting to see, right? And so I think our O-line playing great. All right, can we get better? Can we tighten some things up? Yes. Everywhere across our whole team we can. But I still think we're the best team in the country. So after what I've seen the last few weeks, Alabama's not the same team. They don't know how to play defense like they used to. Texas is very beatable, right? We saw that. I think Georgia put a good recipe on what you can do to disrupt that. Georgia's only going to get better after their loss, right? So it's going to be fun with this 12-team playoff, and I like our shot.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to ask you that question next. Like, do you think Ohio State is the best team in the nation or not? I do as well. There's actually a lot of people that are still picking Ohio State. I guess there's a difference between rankings and ratings, and I guess they are rating Ohio State as the number one team in the nation. But I agree with you. Just chock full of talent, and like you said, the brotherhood. And I think that's you've brought up a couple times something about this team that I think goes like under the radar a lot. And that's the fact that, I mean, Caleb Downs can come in, Seth McLaughlin, Quinshaw Judkins, Jeremiah Smith, all these players that weren't part of the team, they can come in and have a like critical role in this team. And it doesn't upset like the balance of the team. You don't hear people complaining, like you said. And that is like a big, big deal for a football team for them to come in and do that. So I love that. But before we get to
last year of Travion Henderson running and watch him running versus last year versus this year. And if you can't see a difference, you're crazy. And that is purely because they brought in another premier running back and he bought in, right? He didn't complain. He said, I have an opportunity to learn from this guy. And Junkins was doing the same thing. Right. And you're seeing that in the receiving room, like it's going to be special. That's going to be the difference in this team. I fundamentally believe it.
Yeah,
is there anything you want to see the defense improve on?
Listen, I'm a big believer in you have to be able to dictate the terms, right? And so on offense, we can do that at Ohio State, right? We can put you in different formations. We can, single a receiver and do things so we can dictate the terms. If we're going to continue to do well on defense, like how do we dictate the terms? And that's either by getting pressure, that's showing man coverages and different bluffs. And I think Jim Knowles has all that in his playbook. And we can do that, right? So, that's what made Alabama so elite under Nick Saban is they made offenses change their scheme based off of what the defense was doing. And if we can get to that point, that's scary, right? And so offensively, I feel we have that just based off of personnel. And I think Chip Kelly is a really good play caller and play designer. And I think Jim Knowles has that too. It's just getting his rhythm with these guys and seeing where we go. I think there's a lot of different ways we can use Caleb Downs. Give pressure and start dictating the terms, we'll be fine.
Yeah, I like it. So I got one more question. But before we let you go here, you can no comment if you would like, but it's kind of a two-parter. Number one, what's your thoughts on the team up north this year and how they are playing? And number two, which do you think they cheated and what's your thoughts on that?
I'll do number two first.
Okay.
It's kind of like the Oregon thing, right? Like they knew a rule better than us. Did they really need to put a 12th guy on the field to beat us? Like that's Bush League. I don't believe Alabama and Nick Saban would do that. I don't think Woody Hayes would have done it. He'd have lined up and said, screw you, beat us. Right? So there's a mentality there that I don't like. So you could argue one way or other, did they cheat? Did they not? Listen, shame on us if we knew they were stealing signals and not fixing it, right? So there's a whole part to that. And listen, by the way, I watch signals. Everyone's watching that. So during a game, you can probably pick some of that up. But at the end of the day, I don't care if they know our plays or not. You have to go out and execute. Shame on them for doing it. Do I think it's cheating? Yes. Do I think we're making a bigger deal out of it at times? Maybe. Still got to go play. Michigan was a damn good football team last year. No one wants to admit that, but they were. At least no one around here in Columbus. That said, what do I think they are this year? Unfortunately, Harbaugh is quirky and really weird, but he's a good football coach, man. Look what he's doing in the NFL. And he's one of the best at scheming and setting up plays and making sure he knows how to take shots. I mean, he does it in the NFL, and he's done it at Michigan. Every time they got a first down, once they crossed the 40-yard line, they took a shot into the end zone. Go back and watch every Ohio State game. It's like clockwork. And he was setting up those plays in the first and second quarter to do it in the third quarter. So he was a good coach. But you look at the amount of people and things that left because they knew sanctions and things were coming down, quite honestly, is a disgrace. Like, we talk about accountability. You asked what my perfect culture was. Like, you got to own it, all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. And they didn't, right? They owned the good, but they didn't own all the other stuff that came with it. And quite frankly, that's why their season this year is what it is. And that's the result of not having a good culture and owning it. So that's my thought.
I love it. That's a darn good thought. Nicely said, man. Nicely said. Well, Melo, you got any last minute questions before we let Steve go? And then Melo, me and you can hang on here and kind of talk about a few more things and close the show out. But you got anything else for Steve?
Hey, Steve, thank you for joining us. I really don't have anything else. I'm happy that you were a captain of our team. I'm glad you joined us tonight. Making that trek from Boca, I know you have roots and ties to the Columbus area, but to come all the way from that beautiful weather in Boca to Columbus, that takes some guts, to be honest with you, regardless of the background and the ties. And hopefully we could do something in the future. We got something kind of planned special for the Team Up North game that we haven't announced yet. And maybe we'll hit you up on the email and see if you want to be a part of that.
Yeah, let me know, man. Glad to be a part of it, and appreciate all the questions. Enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, for sure. I got so many more questions I could ask you, but we've been on here for 51 minutes now. I didn't even ask you how long you had. So I'm going to let you go now. But, dude, it was an honor to talk to you. I really appreciate you answering the questions. You taught me a few things today. That's something I love about doing this. So we appreciate you, Steve, and look forward to the next time you come on.
You got it, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Captain.
OH.
I-O.
All righty, chat.
Hey, I'm gonna try to cut my camera on and see if it's better now.
Yeah, do your thing.
How am I looking?
Oh, dude, that's it, bro. That's it. It was kind of hard doing that because I'm sitting here talking, asking them questions, but I can't like see your face and see if you're ready to ask a question or not. So I'm sitting here I keep talking. I'm like,
bro, that's that synergy, man. I just waited and I just jumped in when I had my opportunities.
I know. I love it. That was fun. That was awesome, bro. Hopefully it comes back on because I could ask him questions for days. I wanted to ask him, like what it's like now being a Buckeye alumni, because I'm always curious about that. Like, I know what it is to be a fan. You can go anywhere in the country and be a Buckeye fan, and it's like a family. I mean, I just experienced it in Eugene. I can't imagine being a player, like how you get treated, the amount, how many times people like buy your meals, or the love people show you, or even the hate. I bet you there's some people that,
and that's probably fun too.
I know, bro, but I was just curious about it. But yeah, so we got the score predictions. There was a couple recruiting questions in the chat, but I let people know that on Sunday at 5, me and you plan on getting on here and doing a little recruiting update, letting people know you can't do it. You can't do it. We'll figure it out.
I could come on. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But chat, you got any questions for us, man? Anything you want us to hit on? Anything about the Nebraska game, or do you want our thoughts on like what the defense is going to do, or anything like that? Melo, what you laughing at, man?
This comment, it's so true too. That is so true. Like,
hey, yeah, bro, this is a huge blessing, man. I mean, chat, we appreciate the heck out of you. If it wasn't for you guys coming in here and joining, man, me and Melo wouldn't have this opportunity to be able to reach out to people, ask them to come on. Like, bro, like seriously, man, like we have a blast, but we do this for y'all. And just to give you guys the picture of the future, like I would love for this channel to grow big enough to the point where like we're bringing, like, instead of giving away a t-shirt, we're giving away a ticket to a game and airfare for you to come with us to a game. Like, that's the type of stuff I'm wanting to do. Like, I literally want this to be, and Melo does too, a fan channel where y'all can literally not just sit in the chat and type back and forth to each other, but be involved if you want, have get-togethers wherever, all that stuff. So I just love the community aspect of it, man. So
absolutely, that's what our vision is. right there, what Dev just said. That's what we talked about when we first started this. It was just to give everybody a voice.
Yeah, I saw. So did we hear Day today? Was Day's was
Yeah,
his?
I heard him. So Day and all the captains spoke after we did our first show.
Dang, I didn't watch that yet.
Yeah, I heard Day.
Yeah. So a couple interesting things from his press conference. We can hit on that real fast. We all heard, everybody's got that question about why does Jim Knowles run a different defense than he did at Oklahoma State? I mean, Ryan Day answered that question for us because of how Ohio State recruits defensive line. We recruit way better defensive line players. Therefore, we play the scheme according to the players that we have. So, I mean, Mika asked a great question here. Melo, you can jump in and answer this about
let me answer.
creativity.
Let me answer Emily's real quick because people were asking.
Yeah.
So Dave was talking about, someone specifically asked him about rotation and using the second-year guys in terms of specifically K-Mac, Arvell, and Malik Hartford. And he said, yeah, we're going to need all those guys. This is a long season, and we're going to need them at some point during the season, so they need to be ready to play. So obviously, let's see what happens. I want to see Luke Montgomery get some burn, to be honest with you, because he was an All-American, and there's no way he could not be good enough to play. That's just my opinion. I don't see it. Maybe he's not, but I don't see how he's not ready. So I want to see Luke get some burn. And yeah, let's see if Day is really going to rotate. I mean, he's forced to rotate for Josh Simmons, obviously, and for Lathan at this point. So let's see if they continue.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest things. Like, I get the answer. Okay. So Day's been giving that answer now this entire season. But here's the problem with that, right? Don't say later in the season. It's now, right? Because here's how that ends up. You end up getting an injury, Josh Simmons, and then you end up having to put a player in that hasn't played hardly any snaps all year. So, I mean, that's your first problem with that. Like, get these players in the games, man. Like get them in the first half, rotate them in with the starters and whatnot. Yeah, Edric Houston. I mean, all of them, because then the other aspect of it is nil and the transfer portal, right?
Yeah.
You're bringing in these 5-star recruits, man. College football is different. It's not like it was. Here's the truth. The Ohio State name, unfortunately, and I'm sorry if you don't like this, does not hold as much power as it used to in recruits' eyes. It just does not. You got to kind of humble yourself a little bit and kind of, ease into that a little bit more. And you got to get these players in the game a little bit, not just because of that, but because they're the future of the team. You never know when somebody's going to go down. But I have faith that that's going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But yeah, let's address Mika's on creativity on defense.
He better. He has no choice. Remember, Day said he went in there and demanded that they get more pressure. It's not an option. So the only way you're going to get more pressure is by being creative with your blitz packages and your stunts and your scheme a little bit, because doing a straight 4-man pass rush against 5 to 6 linemen is just not going to work.
Yeah, I feel you. Here's the thing. I think we might want to temper our expectations a little bit, or what we think creativity is, right? Because I'm not so sure you're going to see like what he did in Oklahoma State with the 3-down linemen.
No.
Now, if you mean creativity, like some stunts and bringing linebackers on better blitzes and bringing safeties on blitzes more, whatever like that, yes, the answer is yes. But as far as like some dramatic change, two things to that. Number one, you're in the middle of the season. So there's only so many changes you can make to your overall scheme and make it work. So these are one of the blessings that came from losing to Oregon. And that's this. It showed us, put a spotlight on some of the weaknesses of our team early enough in the season that we can install some changes, and it gives us an opportunity to show it in Nebraska. Not that we can underestimate Nebraska, but the truth is Nebraska's we can try out some new things when we play Nebraska. It's not like we're playing Oregon or Penn State. So we can try out some new things. So there's a hidden blessing in this loss, like Steve brought up earlier. Karis, the Cujo Buckeye Boyz t-shirt. Here's the deal. When Buckeye Boyz hit 1,000 subscribers, we will have a couple different t-shirts. And Buckeye Boyz hats and maybe something else available, for y'all to purchase if you would like to, for sure. Melo, your internet's doing that little thing again.
Oh yeah, I see it.
You can still hear me though, right?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. We can still hear you good.
Yeah, because the bar went down. I don't know. I got a lot of things running off my internet right now. Next time I'm gonna have to take some stuff offline.
Yeah, you might want to turn your camera
system that runs off the internet. So I really don't want to have to take it offline, but if I have to, I will. But I don't know how long I would do the live with it off. After record.
Yeah, I got you. But for sure. So yeah, dude, we're excited for the Nebraska game for sure. Excited to see what happens with the defense and different things like that. I'm going to get off here instantly and watch the captains and Ryan Day, what they talked about. But listen, Buckeyes, like the Oregon loss, it hurt, but you've heard it 1,000 times. I'm going to say it again. We're fine. We're absolutely fine. I still believe we are the best team in the nation. I do not have on scarlet-colored glasses when I say that. That's just honestly what I believe, man. Like I've said it 100 times. I'm going to say it again. We lost by 1 point. All right, let me explain a few things to you. We played in Autzen Stadium. First off, they had a 5-hour plane ride. Okay, they got there. They played in Autzen Stadium. I was in the stadium. The place is serious. Like, whatever you're thinking in your head about how loud it was there, up it a little bit. You're going to need to up it a little bit for sure. We had essentially 2 turnovers. Denzel Burke had a bad game. The offense overall played pretty good. Could they have played better? Yes, they could have. They could have done some things better. The last drive had a couple mistakes with the clock and Will Howard taking the sack. And there's a point why I'm bringing up all these negative things. And this is just the truth and how I feel. The refs called a pretty soft OPI call, and Will Howard was 100% down with 1 second to go. That's not up for debate. He just was. And all that I just said, and we lost by 1, dude.
Right.
1 point. So imagine if you take away one of those turnovers, we win the game. Now everybody's going to come back with, well, Oregon left points on the field. Yeah, I mean, they got that interception that didn't get called, but that still doesn't make up for the situation that we were in with the OPI call, took us out of field goal range, all that stuff. So that's how I feel about all that stuff. We're good, man. I'm telling you right now, we're good. Look at the veteran leadership on this team. Look at what Will Howard has done. And just trust the coaches. Trust Ryan Day. Let him do his thing. Everybody can talk about these big game stats all you want with the 1, 2, and 7 or whatever. But don't forget the Clemson game, completely botched by the officials. Don't forget the Georgia game, questionable call there, and Missouri game. Don't forget the cheating, that occurred from the team up north. And look what happened in the Oregon game. We're right there, dude. We're right there.
Absolutely. Don't lose your mind. But, man, there's some interesting stuff going on Twitter right now.
Uh-oh. What, dude? What?
I text you a screenshot. Jim Knowles' sister is going off right now.
Oh, shoot, man. Is she?
Yeah. She's going off.
On who?
On some random guy named Re-Rob 97. So I guess he was saying talking about Jim Knowles and all the time he had here and how the defense isn't performing.
Yeah. Hey, check this out. I got to read what she put on here.
Yeah.
Remember this, dude.
Let the chat know.
Now, listen, I've said my things about Jim Knowles. It's what it is, bro. If you're going to coach at Ohio State, we're going to tell you how we feel about what we see. Doesn't make you a bad person. We're not judging who you are or anything like that. It is what it is, bro. But in 2020, we were the 44th ranked defense overall. 2021, the 38th. 2022, the 24th. 2023, the 3rd ranked. 2024, the 2nd ranked. Number 3 scoring defense, number 4 rushing defense. So just making a point there that yes, we are complaining about Jim Knowles, right? But defense is way better than what it was. But I mean, the truth is, dude, Ohio State, the players say it all the time. The coaches say it all the time. You just can't make mistakes. You can't do it. You're going to get held. Your feet are going to get held to the fire. Just like Steve said, that pressure that he's feeling from everybody talking all this stuff, that's a privilege, man. That's why you come to Ohio State. You are held to the standard above standards. You know how you play the NCAA game and you run up those scores like 120 to 3? The standard that we expect at Ohio State is worse than that. We are going to be we're going to be mad that our defense gave up 3 points, 120 to 3, and I promise you, we're complaining that they kicked that field goal.
And basically, she's responding to this. Somebody tweeted respectfully, "You've forgotten more about this than I'll ever know."
Wow.
But he's had 3 years. How much more time will it take? Saban sees the problem with his scheme. Why can't Knowles and Day? So Paula, Jim's sister, said respectfully, Jimmy's had 2 seasons and 6 games, not 3. And Saban wasn't talking about him with the little magnifying emoji over her eye. And then she listed off the stats of where our defense was ranked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she was trying to put someone in their place. But what she's not understanding is when it comes to big games, he hasn't been living up to the standard. We don't care. We didn't bring you here to beat Iowa, Northwestern, and all those teams. We brought you in here to beat Penn State, the team up north, and whoever we face in the college football playoffs. And so far, it's been a failure. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Things ought to get better. That's all right. We'll see what he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. He has the potential. Just come out here and do it. Put our players in the best positions. That's all we're asking.
Yeah. Ain't no doubt. We'll see what he does. But I think that'll do it. Don't you, Melo?
Yeah, it was a great show, man. I appreciate the legend Steve coming on, aka the captain. I appreciate everybody in the chat being here and asking some very awesome questions to the captain. And hopefully this won't be the last time that he's on.
Yeah, for sure. That was awesome. It was a huge privilege. Like I said, chat, you guys help with that, man. The fact that you guys come in here, give us the opportunity to be here. So that's why I tried to read all your questions in there. It's a little difficult on my end to try to do 5 things at once. So I asked as many as I could. Stay tuned. We got a lot more guests coming on, man. Got a couple parents, players coming on. Got a couple of recruits coming on that you're going to want to hear from. Got a lot of things planned. Melo brought it up earlier, but for the team up north, when we play them for the day before the game, we have something extremely special planned for Buckeye Boys here. It's going to be really, really cool. If you're interested in joining us, and coming in the chat and getting involved, stay tuned, man. Hit the alert bell, and you'll be able to see what we got going. So,
before we leave, I just wanted to give a special shout out to our brother Sean Schrockstar. He's done a lot supporting us, and we appreciate everything you've done, Sean, and definitely keep holding it down for us.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Sean is a rock star behind the scenes for Buckeye Boys. He's been reaching out to a lot of people, asking them if they're wanting to come on here, dude. So we appreciate you, Sean. Sean is a wrench on the show. He's part of the Buckeye Boys. He's family, just like a bunch of y'all are. So, again, man, all y'all that are in the chat all the time, shoot us an email, man. Come on here. Talk with us. That's what this show's about. Get on here. We can do what you're doing with what Melo's doing tonight. He's hiding himself. He forgot to shave, brush his teeth, all that stuff. So he just turned his camera off. You know what I mean?
I'm trying. It's Halloween. I forgot to take the mask off. I'm trying to save the kids out here.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, hey, we love y'all, man. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time. I'm gonna be dropping a pre-recorded video. We recorded earlier tomorrow, so look out for that. Chat, we love you. Peace out, homies. Go Buckeyes. OH.
Ayo.